What's good, y'all? Welcome to the John Katz Show, episode number 52. Being joined by a very special guest today. We have on Skype audio Sam, aka Foo.
You got it. Yeah,
F-O,
hi.
aka Politibunny. Hi, how are you? Thanks for coming
I'm
on.
good. Oh, and you called me a special. You're so awesome. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
You know what? I'm fantastic. That's awesome. Always awesome. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Sam is a social media personality, political commentator, Twitchy editor, contributor. What was your position you said on Twitchy? Sorry.
I'm a managing editor there.
So I didn't even do it justice. Managing editor.
Yeah, I'm like in charge or something, which is really scary.
That's
So
a
that
good-
works out. And you make me sound so important. Thank
Managing
you.
editor sounds important. You did that all on your own.
Yeah, but you talk about social media and like I just
Yeah.
talk a lot of smack and that's my job. So thank you for making me sound like I do something worthwhile. I appreciate that.
Well, you're much more tapped in than I am, that's for sure. If you want to find her stuff on Twitter's Politibunny, Politi Bunny, and that's got the Twitchy link and all that on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I read your stuff, it's like it reminds me how out of touch I've become with the political. I was really into the political stuff for a while. I got so jaded, and
It's easy to get jaded. I don't think it's a bad thing that you're not all that involved. A lot of people, it's not a great thing. It's kind of what I do every day, but I actually kind of admire people who can step away and not get buried in it. So good for you.
No, it's hard. I'm not knocking it. I think my general ideology is also kind of like just leave me alone type stuff.
Oh, well, then we'll get along great because that's mine too, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just leave me alone.
exactly. It's the foundational stuff that never changes.
The stuff that was so brilliant, it doesn't need to change and it just keeps working. I agree.
I was just talking about that. Don't you think, and I'm not even 100%, I don't know if you identify fully as libertarian or any, but weren't most of the founding, if you're a good person to ask, weren't most of the founding fathers libertarian minded? I have this, just having this debate with somebody, but it's like,
I would think most of them were. I'm what I call a conservatarian. I can't quite get on board with libertarians because they're a little too batshit even for me. But I respect the idea of limited government, small government, and bigger people. So I dig that. But I'm a little too pro-life, I think, and I understand that libertarians can be pro-life, but it's kind of a gray area. Some people are like, stay out of it. Some people are like, do no harm. And I'm always like, do no harm. So I kind of lean more conservatarian. And I think, though, to your point, the founding fathers having just been through hell and this huge overreaching monarch, and I could imagine they'd be more libertarian. I mean, you've got some theocrats in there, too, who want to talk about God and all that good stuff. But I think ultimately it's about big people, little government.
yes.
So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I don't mind people being religious and worshiping God and all that. It's I guess it's the insertion where you're trying to then impose those morals on other people, where it
Right.
starts to
And
get a little weird. But
that's really not your place to do that. And I think it's good to lead by example. And if you have someone who's of faith, like it's Lent, so I'm trying not to curse, but it's not working very well. But I think if you can lead by example and do good things and get good to people, I think that's more important than trying to force any kind of faith or religion on someone. So see, yeah, I got those little libertarian things going on, but I'm just not quite there.
yeah, I don't think it's incongruent. I don't think libertarianism is incongruent with the pro-life. As someone who, it's like I never sought out libertarianism and went, this is what. It was just like, if when I look at it, I agree with 98% of it, just
Yeah.
kind of naturally.
Sure.
What are the wacky part? Because this is the
Okay.
debate. Everybody's always like, these guys are not. And by the way, I'm someone who really does think we would be better off decriminalizing everything, every vice.
Well, it's not like it makes it any better. I mean, if you think about it, the drugs have been illegal forever, but it's not like stopping the war on drugs doesn't stop drugs. And, why not legalize it and take care of people and make sure they're healthy and safe and doing what they need to do and tax it? There's that little jab that the libertarians don't like, tax it. But, what really kind of made a problem with me for libertarians was back in 2016, and I really didn't want Donald Trump. I was really struggling in my own little political sphere, and I mean, I was making them all very angry because I refused to jump on a train. I refused to be part of this movement. I didn't trust that he wasn't a Democrat after all the years and the abortion crap. So I was like, maybe the libertarians, that makes sense for me. But that was the year the dude got on stage, took his clothes off, and spun around in a circle. So I was like, okay, this isn't for me probably. But I still thought maybe. And then it was, I think, AP for Liberty. I can't remember his name, and he's going to throw something at me when I get back online. But he was running for president. He wanted to be the Libertarian nominee, and he was great, but he was too conservative. So they kicked him out. And then I was mad. I'm like, you really lost out here, guys. And then they told me they didn't want me. So I got kind of burned at that point, but I did vote for Johnson that year. I just couldn't do it otherwise. And interestingly enough, my daughter, who was 11 then, had decided she was a libertarian at the time. So when they had this huge vote at school, this was grade school, she was the only Johnson voter. So that was kind of funny. But then, along came 2020, and I'd have voted for a bologna sandwich over Joe Biden. So it was a Trump vote. But
who were you with in 2016 in the primary? Cruz, I'm guessing.
The primary, oh my God, I can't even remember. Probably Cruz. It's been that long, Cruz. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was
all the legit conservatives that were anti-Trump were Cruz people. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably Cruz. I can't remember. I'll be honest with you, but it was anybody. I didn't want Trump, and I really hated the behavior I was seeing on the right. I expected it from the left. That whole, he is, the Messiah, and he's going to save our party and our country. Like, this is crap. I hate this. This is not who I am. This is not what I want. Lower my taxes and shut up and leave me alone. But that wasn't how it was working. And oh my God, Trump supporters were meaner than any leftist I've ever dealt with. I mean, they were the ones who originally tried to get me fired and take my kids from me, and it was horrible. But, you come out of that and you're bigger and stronger and better and nothing scares you. And now I do this for a living because I'm insane. So it all worked out.
Yeah, I was a big Trump guy in 2016, especially because I felt like, I just loved, and I think this was the appeal for a lot of people, I just loved that somebody got up there without a political cadence and this rehearsed bullshit way of talking.
Yeah.
And he was just like, obviously he's not the most articulate, but I believe he's a savant in his own way. He's got a certain type of genius for sure. But
I didn't like. I mean, there are things about him I really enjoyed. To your point, before that even, I liked that he was always making people angry, and I liked that about him. What I didn't like was the maniacal, cult-like ideal that if you didn't follow in line, you're a bad person and we're going to destroy you. And I understand that he was fighting a whole different kind of group, and I looking back, I get it, but man, I hated that, I don't know, that behavior and that idea that he owned my vote, and F you don't own my vote, I do. And
no, he's definitely an egomaniacal, narcissistic type. There's no question. And I say a lot, there are certain things where you kind of almost need that or don't mind it necessarily if their goal, his goal was always, and I was to say a minute ago, to me, a lot of what he was into was aligned with, let's get the government the fuck out of our lives. He was calling out these institutions that nobody had called out in forever. So that was really appealing. But
I could see that.
His whole narcissistic vibe is like, I'm the best at this. I'm the best at that. I need to be known as the best at everything. And it's like, that to me, I went, okay, if he's really, because if he's really that obsessed, I don't need him to be, in other words, if I need brain surgery, I don't care how nice my brain surgeon is. If he's the
I think that's totally fair.
there are certain things I do, and I'm huge on people's intention, and so like in a lot of cases, in a lot of interaction, I do care where someone's heart is at. But I didn't mind because I'm like, he's gonna really try to go down as having done the best job ever because he's obsessed with needing people to validate him as the best.
That's very fair, and I think that's a good point when you look back at it. For me, though, maybe if it hadn't been so much on social media and with the people, but it was like a cult. And I'm one of those. I'm probably a little bit like him in that I don't like being told what to do or how to think or what I'm going to do. And if you cross me, I'm going to end you. So it might have been a little bit of that for me. But he won, and I respected that, and I decided to call balls and strikes, and that pissed everybody off. So, because the people who were pro-Trump were like, "Oh, we don't want you. You know, you're horrible. You didn't like him. You know, die in a fire, bitch." And the other people were like, "Oh my God, we thought you had integrity and you gave up for your job and you're just paying you to like Trump." And I'm just like, guys, we gotta do the best we can with what we got. So
Yeah.
bust off, you know. But then it was like he was having some great policies and ideas, and it was like the First Step Act. And I was like, oh, this is actually really cool, you know. We get in these cycles for young black men who go to jail, and then they can't get a job, so they go back to crime, and then they end up in jail. And he was working with Van Jones, of all people, and it was awesome. And it was like, we're going to make sure these young men have a chance. I'm like, this is their big racist. I love this. This is awesome. And you know, he didn't take any shit from North Korea. I mean, it was just like, okay, I can dig all of this.
Yeah, people didn't realize what a popular. That's why it's so funny. The left was starting to go against stuff that they'd been in favor of since I was a kid, just because Trump was for it. I'm like, no, you guys wanted this stuff. Like, he's not far right. Maybe
he's not.
That's what's funny, right? Because he'll say stuff that's so aggressively over the top that people go, "Oh, he's so far right." But it's like, are you actually looking at his even the trade stuff he did? That was he was very centrist and
he's a populist.
He's a true populist, and it got lost in this he's a radical racist argument that stuck with half the country.
It was nuts. And you know, and I think that was what a lot of conservatives struggled with, is he was a populist. He was not even really Republican. And so it was like, how do we relate to this? And I was like, I dig this because this is really different. And it was kind of a mea culpa for me because I had hated him. Oh, I was so it was bad. And I'm like, okay, this isn't stupid. Oh, this doesn't suck. Oh, he cut my taxes. Okay, this works.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I had an old theory that I haven't thought about in many years. But in 16, I would try. It was to a T. Did you never watched The Apprentice, right?
I did not. No.
See, it's every person that found him so off-putting didn't watch The Apprentice, and I was like, if you watched it, you would know. You'd get him, like you'd get the joke. No, there was just something about like there was a familiarity with like, oh, that is just kind of Trump being Trump. He's got a humor that's very underappreciated. You know what you touched on before that I really love about him is that, because you said you're kind of like this and so am I, which is he's the first politician I ever saw that won't say the words you want him to. Yeah. He'll never placate you in that way. If you tell him say this or apologize for that, he will go out of his way to then just double down on the original thing.
And I think that's what drove. I'm like, this is who I am. I should probably like that about it because I am the same way. And don't you dare. And I will argue for an hour just so you can't tell me what to do or say. So you think I would respect that. And looking back, you know, it was just part of that for me was not so much even Trump, but, you know, these people saying, if you don't vote for him, you're voting for Hillary. And I'm like, no, I'm not voting for Hillary. And that's not how this works. And, you know, I really dug my heels in. But I do that with pretty much everything. So, yeah.
So who do you want? We have an election next year, which is crazy to think about. The time flies. Who are you pulling? You want DeSantis in there? Who do you like?
I like DeSantis. I really do. I think he's got a lot of what made Trump great without the stuff that made Trump cringy. And but honestly, at this point, and this is how I felt in 20, if we can get rid of Biden, I'm good with whatever the Republican Party brings me at this point.
Do you think he's going to run?
Biden, I think he wants to. I don't know if the Democrats are going to let him or if he's going to magically get too sick to run or what's going to happen. But right now, he's talking about how healthy he is. His doctor came out and said, oh, he's more than capable. I'm like, have you seen him walk? Have you heard him talk? Are you really a doctor?
I did the math on it the other day. Yeah, who the fuck is examining this guy? I did the math because his birthday's in it's toward the end of the year. It's November, December, I think. So, you know, in his let's say he ran and was elected again, quote, elected again. He'd be in office those last few months. He would be 86.
He would be ancient, yes.
You have his birthday still coming up this year, then the next year, and then that final election year, you're still in office for a couple months. Think about that. Look at him now, and then picture him in 6 years.
Do I have to? No, thank you. I think their biggest problem, too, is they really thought people would kind of get in line behind Kamala, and they just haven't.
Why? I don't think they thought. They'd be retarded.
Well, they're retarded. Look what they did anyway. I mean, think about what they've put in office. Do you really think these are smart people making smart decisions going, yeah, this is what's good for this country?
I actually,
Absolutely not.
yeah, but see, I actually don't understand that because they're actually really good at brainwashing and manipulating and marketing and stuff. It's like, why are they so bad at, Kamala was polling less than 1% in the primary. They obviously said before they picked her, we're going to pick a woman of color and all that. They kind of box themselves in.
She could be she is a complete dumpster fire. And that's all that matters, though, is her sex and her color. She is a diversity hire of all diversity hires.
But why, forgetting even her, because I said this in 2016 too, I'm like, why is it Hillary? Why is it Biden? It really makes you think that they do have this select little group of people who are part of this special elite club they can't. Well, because otherwise they would look at what Trump did and they go, hey, we can bring in a dynamic, younger, crazier.
They kind of did, though. Think about, go all the way back to 2008 and think about Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
He really was different from anything. Forget the identity, forget that, first black president, yay, whatever. Think about how old he was and how he behaved and what he did. And really, Trump was a reaction to Obama.
Well, that's even more reason why they should. Obama had real fans and enthusiastic support.
Does.
Right. So they need another. If they were smart, they would find the next Obama. No one had heard of that guy. Why are they going back to the Clintons and the Bidens and these old
dynasty? And they do that. Honestly, look at even with Bush. Jeb Bush is in the news again, and God, who wants to hear about Jeb Bush? But the nice thing is, of course, is they're trying to use Jeb as a means to hurt Ron, because for whatever reason they all want Trump because they think they can beat Trump. It's all stupid. Ultimately, it's about who they think can get. With Biden, and it sounds like I'll put on my tinfoil hat here. I don't think he's making any decisions. I don't think these are his policies or his ideas or anything that's going on. I think it's Susan Rice and Valerie Jarrett and maybe even Obama himself behind the guy going, we're going to try some stupid shit and let the old guy take the fall for it if it doesn't work. And the old guy goes, look at me, I'm totally not racist anymore. Yay, I'm saving the country. And they're like, yeah, Joe, you're awesome, man. You're making things happen. He sucks. I'm not going to tell him that. And Jill is an evil cow. Who was allowing her husband to be used and manipulated for power, money, and ugly dresses. It is just a reality of what we are dealing with and what they've put in the White House. And I know that sounds mean, but I don't care. I'm just
No, you watch him talk. He's definitely not the one making any. They handle him the way throughout my life you handle an elderly grandparent or something. And even it's funny because even when you watch him meeting like other people that should be enamored with meeting the president and they should be fans of his or whatever, it's like they're handling him like come here, old man, like the way just the faces people make when a really old person's talking, where they kind of nod along and smile like aw, and there you get your expression just going like aw, poor thing, you know what I mean?
It's bad. And, you can tell with some of these hires, and like Sam Brinton, the guy who got busted for stealing luggage, and now it turns out he sold luggage from this beautiful black American or African designer, and he's wearing her dresses at Vanity Fair.
I saw that.
Because he's, non-binary or whatever. And it's also dumb. Everything is so stupid. So, ultimately, you ask yourself, how can it get dumber? But I'm sure it will, because it always does.
Yeah, that's a big part of the problem, is that they've started to actually put the virtue signal ahead of making any type of real progress or impact. It's all about, you see Karine Jean-Pierre, I'm going to mess up her name, the press secretary. It's like
Karine Jean-Pierre, yeah, her.
Yeah, but why do we care what kind of sex a cabinet member likes? Like,
do you care? Honestly, do you care?
It's just bizarre. Like, if you tried to explain that to this alien species, you'd be like, what's she talking about? She's saying, all these people do this certain thing, and what do they do? They like to have a different kind of sex than other people. You'd be like, well, what are they talking about? Why is that a thing?
The aliens, that's why they don't visit, man. They're like, nuh-uh, y'all are nuts. No, I don't care who she has sex with. I really don't. I don't care who anybody has sex with, well, except for my husband. But the whole point is, I don't care when I've elected someone.
Like, we got 4 gays. It's like, okay. Well,
yay! She was so excited. You saw that then when she got on there and she's like, we have the most diverse cabinet ever, and we have all these gay people and these, I think they have non-binary and all these people of color. And I'm like, and this cabinet sucks. You think this is a good thing?
The problem is they're picking that before they actually go.
Oh,
They do it with everything. They go
Everything is about the
checking a box.
message. Yeah, not getting it done, not taking care of country. It's all about how can we pretend we care and pat ourselves on the back for getting nothing done and checking our little diversity boxes and the D and E and I or whatever that crap is, and it's all stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's extremely racist and prejudice. They're actually practicing racism. They're making it, or bigotry or whatever, if you want to.
All of it. Sexism,
Homophobia,
bigotry.
whatever they call it. It's like, stop identifying everybody by these traits and then separating them out and treating them differently.
Yeah.
Nobody was thinking about doing any of that stuff till you guys started all this weird social engineering bullshit.
Ooh, social engineering. That's such a good word for what they do. It's true. It's absolutely what they're doing. We are the most capable because I'm a black lesbian. No, actually, that's not true. I don't care if you are black or have sex with women or with unicorns. It's none of my business. Why is it my business who you have sex with? I don't care.
And it is, by the way, it is an accomplishment if you say this is the first African American XYZ, if none have accomplished it before. But you don't make it the criteria in advance that's so you always talk about equality of opportunity. That's what you want. You don't want equality of outcome. Now you're just engineering outcomes.
Correct.
So you make it equal for everyone. And yes, then if this black person is the first, because we did actually used to have systemic racism in this country. Go back to the 60s or whatever, fine. But we haven't.
We haven't in a long time.
70 years or whenever the civil rights. So you can say this is an accomplishment because throughout history it was different, fine. But don't engineer that outcome, then you're not accomplishing anything. You're being demeaning.
You are.
And
look at that cute, smart little black woman who can do the things that white people have been doing for hundreds of years. How condescending and shitty is that?
No, you're using people as tokens to try to act like there's an issue when there's not an issue.
And what's really ironic about all of this is that for the 4 years they treated Trump like he was this huge neo-Nazi, white nationalist, racist, whatever. And ultimately, Biden is the ultimate racist. He has spent years, decades, 50 years in D.C. And he worked to keep black kids out of the schools. And he hung out with Strom Thurmond, and his buddy was Robert Byrd. And, he has said terrible things about, if you're not voting for me, you ain't black. He did this like when he was running. And I'm just like, wake up, people. You were just telling me that Trump, who supposedly called neo-Nazis very fine people, he never did, but they pushed that for 4 years. But you are literally ignoring what someone literally said in front of you. It's in writing, and it's fine.
Yeah, no, everything with Trump was them having to twist it around to mean something that he clearly didn't mean, even though he talks like... That's what's so hilarious about it. Remember with Trump, it was always, it didn't, like if he said anything kind of folksy or questionable or whatever, it didn't matter. They would just take it and use that line for 10 years. That he said all Mexicans are rapists, or he said there was fine people that are Nazis or whatever. It's like, no, that's not what he fucking... Yet with Joe will say any crazy thing that nobody understands, and then they'll just interpret it for him. Go, yeah, no, he clearly meant this or that. It's like, oh, him you can understand. You could... The
Trump,
other guy, Trump, you couldn't. This guy, you can understand. Like, yeah, they help him.
My favorite thing that he did when he said, and it's mean, but I don't care. He was talking about shitholes, and he's like, these liberal shitholes, and I'm like, I love this. He's right. Oh my God, explosions! How dare he? It's so racist. I'm like, well, are you saying only black communities are shitholes? How is he racist for this? Are you saying only Hispanics are in shitholes? It was the best thing because he was honest, because there are lots of shitholes in this country that we ignore and pretend aren't there. And they are all led by a certain party that they don't want to talk about. And so when he did that, that was like my favorite thing. But the media spun that for weeks and weeks. That, of course,
years.
Not saying years. And
they'll still repeat the same exact lines. God.
They still swear that he called neo-Nazis very fine people. And it has been, even PolitiFact had to say, yeah, he didn't say that. Even Snopes said, yeah, he didn't say that. They didn't want to say that. But they have admitted he didn't do that. And it wasn't, he didn't say Mexicans are rapists. He said these MS-13 assholes, these gang members are rapists, and they are. It's like,
no, are they sending rapists? Yes, there were 60,000 rapes in Texas over whatever year span just from It's like, yeah, so obviously some of those people were rapists. He never said Mexican people are rapists. He said they're
No.
sending XYZ types of people.
They're sending these gang members and they're doing these terrible things. And he called Mexicans animals and rapists. He didn't do any of that. And so it was just constantly at Twitchy. Part of what we do is we take tweets and we write about. Our entire job became fact-checking the fact-checkers and reminding people that's not really what he said and making fun of people losing their minds over it. I mean, he was great for Twitchy because we had a great time covering him because he could fart and it would be a story for weeks, and we could write about that. And, I miss having something like that because right now it's like all of our writing is, oh, look, Biden says something really stupid again. Oh, that's shocking. So
yeah,
it's hard to laugh when things are really bad.
Like he's great for entertainment, for sure.
He is, but, you can laugh at someone shrieking about whatever they wanted to shriek about with Trump. That's funny. Ha, 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 ha.
Right.
But it's hard to be funny because part of what we do is try to keep things light.
Bad.
Yeah, when things are really shitty, it's hard to go, yeah, that's funny, huh? It's not. And then how do you make people laugh? And, oh, you can't afford a dozen eggs right now. Ha, ha, ha. It's not funny. And so it's been that part has been really awful. And seeing that, and people really struggle. And they don't, I don't know. I went off on a tangent, but I miss that about Trump. I miss having that in office. I miss that fun, and there's just no fun.
Yeah, no, you're right. If you just looked at it on paper, because you could say to somebody now who is a huge anti-Trump guy, they'll say he's the worst president in the world and whatever. But if you go, okay, prior to the pandemic, right, name one area where your life was negatively affected during the Trump administration. And they'll bring up the stuff you said. Well, he said Nazis. It's like, no. Like a policy or something that he did.
Your life.
Yeah, your life. Worse? Everyone was paying less taxes. Gas prices were super low. Everybody's investments of 401ks were up. Everything was like, if you go tangibly speaking, and DC who the president was shouldn't really be affecting people that much anyway in a healthy. Right. But you go now, you can you think of it every day, like you said. Every time you're at the grocery store, every time you're at the gas pump, every time you look at your investment accounts.
Yeah. There's nothing funny about any of that. There's nothing, you don't go, gosh, things are great with this guy, And I remember, and I wish I could say who this really smart libertarian was, but he said, we really shouldn't even really care who the president is because they should have that little to do with
I say that all the time. I say, and it was like that for a long time. It was kind of like everyone agreed on the basics and you couldn't really tell. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's true. I think it really started changing under Bill Clinton, and I think it became because it was Gen X was growing up, and we were part of watching him implode, and the whole Monica Lewinsky. And don't even get me started. I have a total Bill Clinton story for if you want it. But we were like, oh my God, he plays saxophone. Oh, he's so cool. Look how cool he is. And oh, he's screwed around on his wife. That's not cool, but okay, whatever. And then it was 9/11, and then everybody's involved emotionally, politically. That was when I really woke up and became involved. And then Obama and everything blew up in social media, so it was kind of gradual. But, we all knew Reagan. We were kids. I don't know how old you are,
yeah.
Probably.
No, I remember. Yeah.
But Reagan was, cool. He ate jelly beans. Move on. Oh, he got shot. I was really little, so I don't remember. But he got shot and he ate jelly beans. That was the whole thing. Okay. And nobody, Nixon fucked up, but whatever. Nixon's... whatever. But the point is, we weren't involved like that. But then Gen X kind of got involved, and then boom, that was it.
Yeah, it's definitely become more of they say since the television era or whatever, right? But yeah, it's more of a popularity contest. I always think back through all those presidents you just mentioned, and other than George Herbert Walker, George Sr., he was the only guy that won an election who wasn't the most charismatic.
He really wasn't.
But he came in on Reagan's coattails, and then he only served one term. But yeah, if you think back, probably through to Kennedy or whatever,
yeah, it's always a good point too.
It's always the more charismatic. Bill Clinton was very charismatic. He was you said, he was smooth. He was funny. He was well spoken. He was playing sax.
He was younger. He wasn't this old guy. But looking back, probably George Sr. wasn't that old. He just seemed old. Ronald Reagan was old. But he was cool. He's on late night television. He's on Arsenio Hall, the sax, and he's dapper, and his wife's young, and I hate to say it, but she was very beautiful, and he had a young daughter, and it was kind of like, oh, this is awesome. And,
who was beautiful?
You're gonna throw things. I think Hillary, when she was younger, was a very pretty lady.
Wow,
I know I'm
that's
gonna get yelled at.
bold.
You gotta edit that out. But I do. Looking at pictures of her back when
I,
they were.
I'm not knocking any the way anybody looks. If I didn't, I'd have to look at pictures of her when she was young, and like if I didn't know her personality and it was purely objective, yeah, I mean, I would never be like, oh, she's an ugly person, you know.
She's a sea hag from hell, and she's awful, and she looks like she's eating her face, but whatever. She was very, and when she was in the White House with Clinton, it was like, oh, the Clintons are young and dapper and pretty,
Yeah.
and then he cheated on her with the chubby intern, and I was like, wow, this is weird. Okay.
Yeah, let's hear the Bill Clinton story.
God,
Yeah.
this is so embarrassing. But he first time I could vote, I voted for him. And the reason was he came to my college and he shook my hand and he said, my, aren't Missouri girls pretty?
Wow.
Now, when he ended up cheating on Monica Lewinsky, she was pretty, but she had a chubby ass. Well, I was pretty and I have a chubby ass. And so it became this big joke that he's got a type. And so my friends were merciless.
You probably could have hooked up with Bill Clinton.
I could have, man. I could be Monica. No, please don't say that's terrible.
I think I don't want to listen. I don't want to get in trouble on here for saying it, but yeah, I've read some really scary stuff on him. Not just that he liked to fool around with, like, obviously there's that what's her name, that Juanita Broderick on Twitter and all that.
Oh yeah, he's a bad guy.
But there's a list of like him, full on assaults like his whole career and life.
Oh yeah, terrible guy. And I think about him shaking my hand and my skin crawls. And it was, oh my God, though he's running for president, and oh, he's so young, and oh, he shook my hand. I totally, and I was so young. I shook his hand. Oh, he's so cute, whatever. And now I'm like, oh my God, that was dumb. But I was young. It's one of those things where, like, if you're not a liberal when you're a kid, you don't have a heart. But if you're not a conservative when you're older, you're stupid or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was stupid, and it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, I know that guy, and I felt like this great connection, and now I'm like, oh my God, I voted for him.
I think when you're younger, you're just naturally more idealistic. And,
then you get a job, and then life changes, and you see taxes, and you realize it all sucks anyway.
Yeah, and even the other stuff, if you look at a lot of the liberal, it's always like, since I was a kid, the left basically thinks the right and says the right is heartless. Yeah. We care about helping people, and you guys don't. Like, they don't realize how detrimental it is the way that they're helping people, and now they're using the helping people as a way to manipulate them into other shit. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, it was always, it's so idealistic. Like, who wouldn't want, like, if you said, okay, let's feed every poor person in the world tomorrow. Do you want to do that? Sam, would you like to feed every poor person in the world?
Let's do that. That's awesome.
Well, if you say no, oh, well, you're an evil asshole. Why don't you want to feed them? They're starving. And it's like, that's...
Oh, I get that now, though. I mean, if you engage with anybody that's fully on the left, anytime you disagree with them, it's because you're heartless or mean or unkind, or you hate people, or you're stingy or greedy, or whatever nasty word they can come up with. Right now, this big thing is Jessa Duggar. They found out she had a miscarriage, and so the pro-aborts, and I will not call them pro-choice because these are some pro-aborts, they're out there cheering it on and saying, look how awesome, she had to have an abortion, haha, you suck, and misconstruing abortion and miscarriage, and it's terrible and awful. And, there are women who are terrified anyway and who are getting misinformed and scared to go have these procedures because they think they're breaking the law. It is just abysmal and disgusting. But if you come in and say, you're lying, this is not true, she did not have an abortion, then immediately it's an attack. You want women to die. That is where it goes with this whole conversation. But that's how it always is. If you don't let children decide to transition to a different sex, you want them to die. That is how stupid it has become. Any conversation. It's not just you're really mean and heartless, then it's been to you're a racist, and now it's just you're a Nazi, you're a bigot, or you hate people. They're run out of ways to debate, so the more they lose, the meaner they get. And that is just how it works. And it's always been that way.
Yes. Well, and then they keep adding new rules and stuff that you have to keep up with, and they're making it worse. Like you were just talking about, we were talking about that Jean-Pierre statement the other day. Even something as simple as her saying X amount of people, she said identify as women or identify as female.
Right.
If you would have even said that sentence 5 years ago or 10 years ago, people would have been like, what is that? Why'd she say it that way? What does that even mean? So now it's like they're creating all these other fake rules where you're just tiptoeing around everybody.
Oh, see, but I'm blessed because I don't have to tiptoe around anybody.
No, I don't either.
They're not going to come after me because, oh, you're going to tell my boss that I'm conservative? Oh, don't do that. Oh, you're going to get me fired. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Because I do this for a living, so kiss my ass. But that is a privilege. That is true privilege. Do not take this crap about white men or white women or whatever being privileged. My job is a privilege because I get to say and do what I want to say and do. And not everybody has that. So they know they can bully people. They don't bully me. They did for a long time, but not anymore.
Yeah.
But you're right. You tiptoe and you're afraid. It is so insulting to be a woman and be told, well, you're a cis woman. No, I'm just a woman. I'm normal. I'm a woman. If you have to change around what I am to make you feel better about you being abnormal, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah, well, and the biggest difference with it, I feel like, is that it's like government sponsored now, where it used to be these fringe movements. That was the problem. Was we started. I try to explain this to people a lot. The fact that we started entertaining this stuff at all, even in a negative way, is what allowed it to breathe. People don't seem to understand. It's like we used to just pat crazy people on the head and then go about our day and do normal, not crazy people stuff, and just go, people on the fringes are crazy. Mm-hmm. But even just if you're a normal, reputable person or whatever, and you start arguing with a crazy person, you're giving that air. You're giving them credibility. You're giving that crazy argument just by entertaining it at all, rather than simply going, these guys are nuts. It makes no sense.
And that's a good point, but I'm really bad at walking away from anybody who comes and brings crazy to my front door. It's kind of that weird balance of, okay, I should ignore that, but if I ignore it too long, it's going to end up on my front step, and then what do I do? So I kind of I'm someone who will punch you in the mouth and move on, but I always punch you in the mouth first because I have to make that point. I have to make an example of you. I get a lot of pushback from people. Why do you bother with that account? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, first, it's my account, so piss off. But second is if I don't, nobody's going to, and somebody has to make an example of this crap. So I do it. Plus, I think it's fun, and I like to play with my food. So
I get sucked into those I used to do it a lot. And now it's like once every few months, I'll get sucked into like a 40 reply debate. And then I just delete it all the next day because I just feel dirty for even having engaged. And I was like, I need a shower. I've always, you gotta be, I've always been very dismissive of crazy people. Like, it actually, and you know what, it triggers them more anyway. Like if what you're looking, cause they want to debate you. It's like, if you want to actually make them feel worse, you're accomplishing both objectives. I would do it with,
I like to make them cry. So I guess it's not enough for me just to walk away.
Well, like I've been in sales my whole, like if I ever have crazy clients, which is often, and they would rage, like if they would send me a raging email and everything.
Well, that's different. I get that.
All that stuff. It's all the phone call. I would go, should I write them a novel back debating every stupid point they make? Or I go like, I say something friendly. I'm like, I'll go like, I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. And they get actually mad. I had that in my personal. I was going to do this whole, I won't get into it. I was going to do this business deal with this guy. And he turned out to be such a freako weird creep. And he sent me like some really vulgar, kind of threatening texts.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, hey, pray for your success. Have a great day. Hope you have a blessed life. Like,
blessed.
Yeah, I take that attitude with people, and because unless they're a real threat to me, if they're a real threat, that's different. But it's like they gotta really actually matter to my life.
And I think that's you probably sleep a lot better and lose a lot. You're probably not nearly as insane as I am.
Definitely that is not true, but not for those reasons. Not for those reasons.
Part of the reason I have a following and all is because I have those fights and because I get into big fights and I don't care and I say stupid mean things and people like that for some reason. But
I'm not knocking it.
No, but I think it's also smart though that to walk away. Sometimes you just gotta know when to walk away. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of crazy that I do just walk away from. But every once in a while, a lot of time, I'll come back and pop them in the mouth because it's funny.
Well, and Twitter is in all fairness, it is a debate platform more than anything.
it has become that. Originally I think it was about marketing and how can you say something clever really quickly, and then it became, well, here's 280 characters, or here's 440 characters, and now people just, it's been that way though. I think since I started in 13. So.
Yeah, the boomers do a little bit of it on Facebook, but if you look at most social media, it's kind of like friends and family sharing pictures and saying quick things to each other. Whereas, yeah, that's the one where you can get on and have a 4-hour
fight,
heated debate with somebody. And look, some of that's good. People should have healthy discourse for sure about things.
I'm not sure there's much healthy discourse on there. Now, occasionally somebody will come up and I'll be like, well, you actually said something smart, but it's very rare. Twitter is Thunderdome. I mean, you go in there and either you're ready to throw down or you're muting a lot, because that is just what it's become. And it gets worse. And, I'm really glad Elon Musk bought it, because it's a lot different than it was. But, it doesn't, it's still where you go on. If you want to have a fight, you're going to have a fight, It's there.
I've muted 10,000 accounts already.
Amateur.
No, half of them I agree with. It's just like I'll be in moods where they're just so negative. It's like, I don't want that energy. I don't want to keep feeling your fucked up energy.
You probably should avoid my timeline.
No. I don't mind.
I'll be honest. Between noon and 4 is usually really bad.
I don't mind healthy debates, and like I said, I've been guilty of it myself. To be honest, when I used to debate people more, I would have people be like, that it started out bad, and even recently I've had that where they'll go or they'll even DM me. I had someone DM me not long ago after one of those and say like, hey, like, you made some good points about what nobody ever concedes anything, but they'll go, you're the first person that, like, I thought you were going to be such an asshole, that type of stuff. I get that a lot. I think there's ways to talk to people if you really want to give them your energy. You can get some stuff across.
I'm not worried about energy. I just want to shut people down. And, to be fair, though, there's this one guy who is uber left, and he's always like, if you think that Biden's an awesome president, RT, and I'm like, that's so stupid. And so I'm like, dude, I hate these kind of tweets. And he's like, well, I'm sorry. And then he had to have this conversation, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm being nice now because I feel bad because I was mean about how he tweets, and it's so unlike me to be nice. And then I was like, I gotta shut up. And he's messaging me, you're the first conservative that ever been nice to me, and I'm like, holy shit, what have I done?
See, there you go.
It's very rare, but occasionally.
That's because if you did it more often, you would get that reply more.
Yeah, but I don't want that reply.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I have a rep to protect. I don't like to be nice.
I do enjoy reading other people having healthy debates on stuff, but it's got to be, as soon as they start going into the like I was saying before, I'm very big on intentionality. It's like especially lately, it's like my main thing. So I pick up on pick people's energy very easily, and it's, what are you trying to accomplish with this argument, right? Are you just trying to be a dick, or do you have something useful to say? Is there a point to any of this? People are so purposely divisive now in a way they've never been. It's like the point is the argument itself rather than the context of what's being said.
Fair, and I think that is absolutely true. But also, I think if you want to have a meaningful debate, Twitter is not the place to do that. And, maybe Facebook is more. I know, I'm just kidding. But no, I think Twitter is a bad place to actually have a conversation with somebody, especially if you're trying to have a real debate. It's so rare. They have those Twitter spaces now where people can call in and talk to each other. And I've seen it happen where you have people of all, all kind of political ideas.
We were OG spaces. Me and some other people did those when the first week it started. We were big on there.
It's great. And people, they don't like each other, but they're not, fuck you and die. It's very much a conversation. And, I've been invited. They were doing this big Second Amendment thing, and it was like 100 liberals and me, and people had me blocked, so I couldn't talk. So it didn't work. But and he's like, well, I don't want you to feel bad. I'm like, really? I wouldn't worry about me, man. I'll be fine, but I think that is more of a place for a debate than someone tweets you and they're like, yeah, you're stupid, blow me, and that's the end of it.
Well, yeah, and because it's like you said, it's a real conversation.
Hmm.
I was talking to Aggie about that too. It's like you don't see people in real life having these type of interactions because it's not just some like troll. They're not in like troll keyboard mode.
No.
But even a text, you can just kind of rattle off all your points and it comes off more like an argument. Versus if someone's talking to me and they're able to talk right back, yeah, it becomes just our human nature is you're going to have a healthier
Yeah.
conversation, I think.
Absolutely. And anonymity, I hate that word. I can never say it right. But that really allows you to be a horrible prick or a horrible woman online because there's no consequence, and I don't care if you like me, and I get in that mode quickly. And it's interesting that talking about energy, I don't even think about it, and I guess I just kind of plow through. But when they had those conversations, I sat and listened for like 20 minutes, and I was interested in what they were talking about. And I'm like, oh, you're so stupid, but I didn't say that. I was listening, and it was really good. So I think, to your point, if you really want to have a conversation, you need to talk to each other. Tweeting it is not really a good way to do it.
Yeah, the anonymity for sure. Jordan Peterson got a lot of heat for, I don't know if you saw that maybe a month or two ago.
Yeah, I saw that where he said if you don't use your real name, you shouldn't be able to tweet or talk to people, or you're a coward. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's a bit extreme, but his point is exactly what we're saying. That if you have to put your real face and name behind it, you're not going
right.
to be an evil douchebag most of
In
the
a
time. And
in a in a perfect world, that makes total sense.
yeah,
In
I
a
was just
perfect
going to
world,
say he's not
yeah,
factoring in the part where someone's going to fire you from your job because you voted for Trump, right?
exactly. Or
But
they're not, they're going to call child protective on you because you are pro-life and you have children and they want to hurt you. I mean, if people weren't evil douchebags to begin with, it wouldn't be an issue.
right, but I think what he was trying to get at was that the discourse wouldn't be so heinous because
Right.
it's not in real life. Because yeah, it's a lot harder to people access a weird part of themselves, and they'd never do that if you were standing there with them, looking at them face to face.
Fair. Some of us would. Some of us have gotten to that point in life, but most people would not. It's kind of like when there's a car accident and only a certain amount of people will actually do something instead of just sit and stare or get freaked out. It's kind of that way, I think, with a lot of people. I'm pretty much who I am all the time. But to that point, like I said earlier, I'm not going to lose my job because I'm too conservative or I said something good about Trump. I'm not going to have consequences. Whereas if my husband, he doesn't work in politics, he says, yeah, Trump is a great president, and they try and find him and destroy his life. I mean, that's just the differences right there. So again, I have that. I'm very lucky. I don't have to worry about it. I own that. I know that.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't have that luxury, and it works. It works in a lot of different directions. You could say something. Anybody that works for any type of private company, you
Yeah.
don't know what your boss's views, your supervisor's views. It could be a million different things. It doesn't even have to be political. And I know a lot of people do get on Twitter. It's like you're not even on there with your friends and family, like the other social platforms. I always say, like, my
Right.
Twitter's for strangers. I don't want to even have people I know involved in it, really. Because you do just kind of want to be able to get on there and say weird stuff.
My husband won't get on it because he said it would infuriate him to see how people talk to me. And I'm just like, dude, I just laugh it off. I don't care. And he's like, no, if someone calls you something, I'm going to lose it. And I'm like, yeah. But to that point, I have really good friends on Twitter who I would consider very close friends, like you said, Aggie, and that whole group of people who do, crazy, all the Kalerin stuff. I mean, I have really good friends, but it's not like, yeah, I don't want
Yeah,
my
but
family
you're
in
not
there.
right, and you're not looking up all your old high school people like Facebook and adding.
God, no. I
Right,
love
it's
Facebook
not.
for that. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's so
not for
great.
that. Like even on Instagram, I follow a lot of people that I haven't seen in 20 years. We went to high school together. We grew up together. I would never seek them
Right?
out on Twitter and follow
God,
them on
no.
Twitter.
No, I know my sister-in-law is on there, and I know who her account is, but I don't follow her and I don't retweet her.
Right.
Part of it is because I know people would just be unreal mean to her, and then I would, get suspended because I would lose my mind. But I don't think about, oh, I wish my mother-in-law was on here so I could hang out with her. Unlike, Facebook, where I would like to hang out with her. So that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. It's people are more polarized, and that's the biggest problem, I think. Whether it's even what goes on in Twitter or society in general, is that everyone wants to put you in one of two camps, no
Yeah.
matter what. It's like you can't just be a normal person with normal views. If you don't toe this exact line and agree with this exact thing, then you're over there and you're an extremist. That never used to be the case.
No, it wasn't. It's very different now, and it's hard because you don't want to be that way, but it always feels like it's a Republican trying to reach across the aisle with. You don't see Democrats go, we really should work more with Republicans. You see Republicans going, hey, we're going to be the grown-ups and work with Democrats. And it's tough because you want to be able to be normal and not have to be in a camp, but everything is a camp, and politics is everywhere. You can't even watch football without there being politics somewhere. And you can't, I mean, even our TV shows aren't, there's always a message. I don't need a message, just entertain me and shut up, you know?
No, they've inserted politics and the woke culture
everywhere.
Stuff into everything. It's the worst. I don't want to know what their views are.
Oh, I know. It's so bad.
Favorite actors. I just saw Bryan Cranston talking about some shit.
Oh, I know. It's so bad. And it's like,
I don't want to know. I ignore it.
Why do that, man? You know, why? You've just alienated half this country. Was that smart? You know, do you think this is a good thing to do? None of that makes sense to me. You know, like when Pink came out and she said, if you're pro-life, you can't listen to my music. I'm like, well, fuck you then. I'm going to listen to your music, you know? It's just, but why do that?
I didn't even know she said that, but it bothers me that she did. Yeah,
why do that? I mean,
it's more even that, like, it's like we all always knew. I always knew musicians and actors are, you know, very bleeding heart liberal types, you know.
Sure.
And I don't even think, you know, people have this, in my opinion, this misperception where they go, oh, it's the industry. It's the music industry. It's the Hollywood industry. I don't think so. It's, for me, it's their art. They're artsy types. They're creative geniuses. And they're the type of people that if you knew in life and met in life, they would always be left. They're playing a guitar and writing music and smoking weed all day. Like, what do you think they're going to feel about all this? Look how emotionally in touch they are with all these senses. We were talking about idealism before.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting younger people, number one, and they're, you know, creative types. I don't know. With sports, it's like, to me, it's the managers and stuff running not the managers. It's like the general managers running the teams. I don't think
the owners. The owners are bad too. Some of the owners are
the terrible. Owners and that's what I meant. More the owners and the front office of the leagues themselves are terrible. But the players themselves don't seem to be like that.
Nah,
they're not woke.
Like whatever.
Yeah, they don't care. They're into sports and shit. Or they're
I'll wear the stupid helmet. Whatever, you're paying me $10 million. You know, move on.
You only hear a handful of athletes coming out with all that stuff publicly, and most of them just want to play the game and don't actually care.
But I think the other problem, though, in that industry is the actors who have come out and they have said, I am libertarian or I am a conservative, they just get decimated. Like James Woods can't find work. Guy is a genius actor. He's brilliant. If you ever get a chance to talk to Jimmy, he's fascinating, and he'll tell you wonderful stories. But, oh, my God, he is a conservative, so he's done. Scott Baio, I mean, you know, whatever, Chachi, but he's also done. Hercules, Kevin Sorbo, done. John Voight, done.
Now, you have to be, like, high enough level, like a Clint Eastwood or something, where you could just do whatever.
Or you have to be uncancelable, like Dave Chappelle.
Right.
You know, who just doesn't care. But he's more left-leaning libertarian than he is right-leaning libertarian, but he is a libertarian. But, you know, they if I come out and I'm like, Adam Sandler is also someone who's more leans right, but he doesn't talk about it. Like Alan Covert, you know, Grandma's Boy.
Even Denzel, right-leaning.
Yeah.
There's Sly Stallone.
Yeah, they have to be very careful, though. I mean, Chuck Norris.
I once heard someone say, if an actor in Hollywood, if you don't know what their politics are, then they lean right.
Exactly.
Because those are the ones that can't just come out and say stuff.
No, they're in the closet, which is really, you know, ironic, but they are. They have to be very careful because the industry will spit them out. It's done.
Yeah, it feels like it got worse when it became institutionally backed. Like, that's what I feel like is really the biggest problem with the political stuff and why the discourse. It's that we're talking about DC politics before. There's such a disconnect. It's like this. It was the original intention, the design, the whatever. Obviously, government for the people, by the people. We have these representatives that go there and are supposed to represent each of our districts and states and all this stuff. But
right.
it became its own institution where they just kind of turned it around and went, we're going to do whatever we want, and now we'll dictate to you guys what's good for you and what's best for you and what your views should be and how you should feel about this and how you should feel. It's so far away from the original design, and I think the term limits would help it a ton because that's created this whole institution with these career politicians, and you would have just regular people going there temporarily to do the job quickly and then get out, and it would be much more representative, in my opinion, if we did that. But it's like they created all the thousands of departments and programs and everything else and went like, here's what you have to do. But it's like, it's our government. Like, we didn't want any of that shit.
But part of the problem is we are lazy. We are lazy voters. We are lackadaisical. We'll sit back and go, oh, I recognize this name, so I'm going to vote for that person. People are not nearly as involved with their local politics and their state politics as they should be. They're more than happy to come out and go, Kamala Harris sucks, but they don't know that their local school board member is a raving lunatic, progressive, liberal Marxist because they haven't been paying attention. And these are the people who really impact your life every day. You know, we sit back.
That's how it should be.
Enough. Yeah. We should care more, like to the point we made earlier. We shouldn't give a shit who president is. We need to care about the crazy progressive Marxist lunatic on the school board. That's where we should be.
The president shouldn't matter, but the federal government has begun to matter in such a way because they've inserted themselves inside our asses in every aspect of life. And it didn't. People did start paying way more attention to the state and local stuff with Rona because our lives started to actually be so heavily affected by it in a way they never were before. And so, like you said, you brought up school board. Think about all the parents that all of a sudden had to battle these. Right. So
I'm a domestic terrorist, just so you're aware. And I've been to many a school board meeting, and they're all afraid of me. So that makes me very happy.
Right.
But
because of the Rona stuff, right?
I was always kind of involved because I'm that way, but not enough people are. Rona, I got crazy involved, and I flipped Virginia red.
Right.
So that was part of Rona. I helped flip it. I won't take all the credit, but we did flip it red. But the other part too is the 17th Amendment. I won't get onto this because this is total nerd stuff. But we lost the ability. The Senate stopped representing the states because it became a popularity contest after the 17th Amendment. They started, elect me because you like me, not because, when the state legislators were picking the senators, it made more sense. They're not there to get rich or get elected. They're just doing their job. And then it became a popularity contest. It became, we're representing the people too. And then you have these idiots who are like, why does California only have 2 senators and that's the same thing as Wyoming? Well, dumbass, that's because each state has the same representation.
Yes.
You can't get this through their heads. They think because they're elected the same way as the reps that it is the same thing. And it's just not. So really, until we make changes like we repeal the 17th and the 16th, we really aren't going to see anything that changes, and it's going to become still this huge federal bureaucracy doesn't give a crap about us because they don't have to.
And they never trim it down. They never cancel any programs. They never cancel any departments that are ineffectual and not working. It's always bigger, more. I don't know how anyone could look around right now and say we need more federal government intervention is the answer. And like you said, the senators, they're campaigning. They're there a year. They're already on their next campaign. It's like,
oh yeah, are you kidding? We just got done with midterms. Time to talk about 2024. Virginia is 2023. We have our big midterm with the Senate here, so I'm already totally buried locally, politically. I don't get a break now. It's like 22, 23, 24. And then, of course, it's 25. But hopefully I'm moving away to Wyoming at that point, and it doesn't matter. But right now, Virginia politics are very important. So that is something that we're doing now. But yeah, you've got Biden. I'm running next year. Where are you running? Because you're not running for president. But it's already started. You've got Nikki Haley already throwing her hat in. Trump, of course, already announced.
The self-awareness of some of these people that like Nikki Haley or Mike Pence or Mayor Pete or any of them think they could be the president. It's like maybe because they see Joe and they go, well, anybody can fucking be president. But
well, look at what they had. Eric Swalwell tried to run, and that was so great.
So bad. We should have
where
no, I just say where are all the impressive people on both sides? on
don't
both
want that
sides.
job. They don't want that job.
I get
People
that they
who
don't
would
want
be
it, but
great-
like we need to shift that consciousness where
Okay.
regular people really, if we got rid of term
Okay,
limits
look at
and
you.
like
Look at you.
I
You're
would
a
do
regular
it.
person.
I would
You have great. You talk about energy, and you care about people, and you want to talk about.
I would do
both.
it. I wouldn't want to be president. I said
But
if I
see,
didn't
we need you to be president, and you're like, no, fuck that. That's insane because that job sucks.
but I'm just antisocial in a way. So like I said, like I would do it if I didn't like have to have dinners with people I don't know and shit like that. That's
But the
that.
good people, they don't want that job. The people who should have that job never want that job. It's the
I agree.
assholes
I
who
agree
shouldn't
with you.
have those jobs
Well, that's
who want to be
because
president.
right, but that's because it became this corruptocratic career political thing where only the shiny scumbags like the Gavin Newsoms of the world want these fucking jobs. But
Gavin couldn't. Oh, he'd love it. Absolutely, they want those jobs because they like the power and the money and.
yeah, they want
Yeah.
their slick back hair and their fancy ties and all that. But but if we got rid of that, that's what I'm saying. To me, all the things that I always say will fix our government aren't even. It's more like shifting consciousness types. There's nothing in the. Why do we have two parties? Where in the Constitution is why do we have Republican versus Democrat? Why
You sound
isn't
like Washington because.
why
we're
isn't
stupid.
everyone an independent? Why don't we have 40 parties being represented? Why do we have term limits? That's
Okay, so if we had 40 parties, it'd be very difficult to have any kind of primary because then like 2%
Correct.
of the people would
No.
get them picked.
no. Listen, get rid of the lobbyists, get rid of the money, get rid of all, blow it all up.
Blow it all up. Yeah, there you go.
Imagine a scenario where you didn't need the money and power apparatus from an RD next to your name, right? And there was term limits involved. So everybody that was coming in was just, they knew it was temporary and then they were getting out. I believe then you would have regular, impressive, like local business owner type people or just local whatevers going,
Yeah.
hey, I think I'd be really great at this for 4 years. I'll throw my hat in there. I'll do it for 4 years, and then I'll go back to being an accountant again or whatever.
Well, see, and that's what's cool. Like in Wyoming, that's how it is. They come, they do 40 days at the state capitol, and then they go back to their lives. They're not the full-time politicians. And, I think we made it. They shouldn't get wealthy serving in office. And I think that's one of the big issues is we have people, they were all bitching and moaning about how much money Trump had, but I was more angry about people like Pelosi who make tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars while they're serving as a public servant. So it has become all about money and power and not about people. But, idealists like you are going to always come up with these great ideas and they're going to go, no, but screw you, dude. Who are you? And I'm going to go into politics and make money. And we have two parties because it's easier if you two are fighting with each other, then I can get away with all this kind of shit, and it's how it is.
How long has Nancy Pelosi's been in office? For how long has she been?
God, let's see. What is she? 82?
Like 50 years? I mean,
Well, yeah, I think the longest serving is Feinstein, though, who's starting this year.
but that's the exact problem. I don't even think I'm being idealistic to say it. It's like it's a non-partisan thing, by the way. Everybody should want that. Every
I think that's fair, but I also and maybe
it
I'm
would help
cynical 'cause
everybody.
I write about this crap and I read it every day, and maybe I'm too cynical for my own good. But being normal and common sense is sadly idealistic in this world we live in. And that is just a reality of what has been created and can it be fixed? Because the good people who could fix it want nothing to do with it because it's so horrible.
It has to hit a breaking point. You can't keep growing it. You can't keep inserting more things.
You keep thinking it's going to go, okay, I'm done, and it's going to throw up and be something different. No, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a government of the people anymore. It feels like a government against the people, and it's this us. It's like everyone falls into. You touched on something before too about people not being as engaged as they should. As you know, half the country doesn't vote, right? So
Oh, yeah.
I always say like that half that doesn't vote, most of them, in my opinion, are just kind of naturally libertarian minded. The fact that they're not engaged in the first place to me just speaks volumes because they're saying, I don't even want to get into that shit. Like, leave me alone. I don't care. I don't want politics and government in my life. But those are the people you should hopefully hear from. But of the half to vote, it's like half of them want less government. They want it out of their lives. And half are like, we need more rules and regulations and people telling us what to do.
Yeah.
You never get anything done with that dichotomy.
Well, you have to convince people that it's okay if life isn't easy and that risk is dangerous and that people get hurt, because that's where these regulations come from. Freedom is scary. Freedom is risk. There are things that are going to happen to you that aren't great when you're free to do what you need to do. And that's what that's what these regulations are about. They want to control and keep you from, it's like with the stupid pandemic. People are going to fucking die, dude. It happens. You cannot legislate this away. You cannot mandate us into safety. Sit back and let it do its thing, because that's how it is. It's a virus. You can't get rid of it. But they wanted to protect, supposedly. They wanted to stop, because if we were free, we would do stupid things and all die. Well, we're all going to die anyway, so move on and let people do what they need to do. But that is the thing about freedom. It's not pretty. It's not, oh, look, they're so free and everything's happy. No, people are free and life can suck, but at least they're free.
You know, they use everything as an excuse to control.
Yeah.
But that's why libertarianism is the way to go. Because here's the thing. Because otherwise it's always a battle of opinions. And
the libertarians have got to get their shit together. I say this kindly, but nobody...
I don't say libertarian as a party.
Right.
I say libertarian as a mindset.
Well, you're going to have to get elected. And I think a libertarian would be great. But
I think everyone should just be libertarian-minded, which is to say, give everyone freedom and equality and let it run. It's like, leave everything alone. Stop tinkering with everything. Stop creating more departments and programs and inserting yourselves into every aspect. Like you said, they regulate everything as a way to control. They don't punish the bad actors. If you have, we're still taking our fucking shoes off at the airport because that guy tried to light his Nikes 20 years ago unsuccessfully. So they went, well, hey, now maybe someone could try that again. You don't regulate the 99.9999% of people who are doing the right thing.
Yeah, I know. It's really stupid. And
maybe that's a bad analogy with Richard whatever, but...
No, it's a good point. Most of these laws are based on one dumbass who did something stupid, and the rest of us aren't doing these things, but we might do that. Well, so here you go.
Well, I brought up recently. Look at the pharmaceutical industry. Look at health insurance and pharmaceuticals and all these things that Biden and everybody get up there and they pretend that they want to bring down drug prices and they want to bring down the cost of health insurance. And remember when Trump wanted to remove the state lines so that health insurance companies could compete with each other all over the country?
Yeah.
That would have brought it down overnight. The reason there are only 3 or 4 pharmaceutical behemoths and no one else exists anymore is because they were regulated out of existence. The reason there's only 3 or 4 behemoth banks and all the mom and pop banks were regulated the fuck out of existence because they make it impossible for the little guy to compete. There is no more competition. They've created these monopolies, and they say with a straight face, we want to bring costs down. If you want to bring costs down, make it so that it doesn't cost over $1 billion to bring a drug to market.
Yeah.
And then you'll see the price of drugs come down because more people will make more varieties of more drugs, and we'll have way more options, and then it'll be cheaper.
Well, and it's kind of like what happened during the lockdowns, and they shut all these small businesses down, but Amazon got bigger, Walmart got bigger, Target got bigger. The big guys billionaires became the billionaires, and
it's their policies. They did it with telecommunication companies, the phone companies. They've done it with every industry.
They have, and it really, it was really terrible. And then they made a big deal about how, small businesses are the backbone of our country, but we're going to put you all out of business to protect you, and that was probably, and they still act like they didn't. Like you can hear them now. Oh, we didn't tell people they couldn't go to work. The fuck you didn't. We were there. And so, there's a lot of that anger still. Sorry for me, but it's true. They took that time to destroy the small business, and then the big business got bigger. The richer got richer. And, they want to say that, oh, it's the right who want to do all these things for the wealthy people, but really it was not. That's not how it worked. And so, they regulated these small businesses. They mandated them out of business.
Yeah, and they've been doing it forever. And that was just this extreme, fast microcosm example of it with all the pandemic stuff. But yeah, they did it with every industry that they get up with a straight face and complain about. They've done that too, and they're the ones that caused it in the first place with their bureaucracy. And nobody's...
Well, They create problems that they can pretend to solve them. That's all they do now.
Yeah, and then they jump on other stuff and take advantage when it happens, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the pandemic or whatever. They go, oh, goody. Now we can implement all this shit that's on our list that we've been saving for a rainy day. Never let a
crisis go to waste. That, totally.
Well, and then even speaking of the disconnect, it's like half the people aren't even elected officials.
Oh no, the public health officials were terrible. They were the worst.
Well, look at Fauci and how much power and control, even to this day, how much influence. And it's like, who is he? Nobody heard of him before. Nobody voted for this guy.
Who elected him? Why does he have all this authority? And then you find out that in the 80s, he's the guy who scared people of gay people because he told them if your children are around gay people, they'll get AIDS and die. Seriously, yes. He's a terrible human being.
He tortures the puppies in those experiments.
The beagles. I mean, he's like this little gnome from hell. And why is... terrible. Don't even get me started.
No, and it's like, can I even talk about Fauci or I'll get taken off the air? Like, it's like, they're so touchy.
They'll demonetize you and take you off the air.
They're so touchy.
For having me here.
They're extra touchy about those subjects.
That's the truth, and they can't deal with the truth. And you guys just blame me. Don't blame him because I said that out loud.
The craziest part about the Fauci thing to me is that if you look at the type of research that he was funding, the stuff that, speaking of libertarians, Rand Paul's like the only one.
I love Rand and his wife, Kelly. They're so cool.
The stuff Rand was hitting him on, that he hits him on every time and he can never give him a straight answer. You could just say this simple sentence, and again, don't take me off the air. You could say this simple sentence and consider it to be true, which is, if not for Dr. Fauci, there wouldn't have been a coronavirus pandemic. It's like he became the hero of something that, if not for him, wouldn't have existed.
He created a problem to solve a problem. What do you know?
Yeah, like, I'm not saying he created the virus, but just domino effect. Like, I won't go so far as to... I know there's a lot of nefarious theories and stuff. I'm just saying, at minimum...
There you go.
There was a domino effect where...
Say it in pig Latin, and then they won't be mad.
The research that he funded dominoed into, years later, the creation of this lab. And the fact that they were going... Yeah, no, it wasn't the lab up the street that studies these viruses. It was the bats.
It was that bat in that market, and somebody ate the bat and then got sick. What?
It's so crazy that there's no... This is what I mean with disconnect. There's no real transparency. It's our government. Like, why don't we know anything?
Yeah, that's a good point, because they don't want us to know anything.
But who's they? They is supposed to be us. Why is it they? They turned around and became a they. It's
true. It's very true.
It's like,
I don't know how you fix that. If I had that answer, I probably would be president.
That's the question. How do you fix it? Because, and that's it. It's more, that stuff is more of a shift in attitude than it is legislature.
Yeah.
It's like you have to get back to just this idea, like, no, it's our government. With the transparency stuff especially, like, it's ours. Why are you now dictating to us who gets to know what and what information is best and what's allowed to be said? You're supposed to be us.
There was a little bit of that with the Tea Party there towards the end of Obama's second term when, I remember the gal who got up and said, "We are not serfs," and I can't remember her name now. There was a lot of pushback. And, of course, Andrew Breitbart brought all that. And I think really he's one of those key players in why we are here even is because of Andrew. But when Andrew died, things kind of went away again, and we stopped doing that. But that question was already there. We were pushing. We don't push enough, and now it's worse than it's ever been.
This is why I was saying earlier that, to me, the right's biggest mistake is that they should be meeting the left on any issue where the left actually wants more liberty. And everyone that wants to talk about libertarians being nutty and what have you, I get it. But so look at like a simple issue like marijuana legalization, for example. The left, forgetting what marijuana is, forgetting if you like weed, if you think it's bad, forget all that stuff.
Right.
The left is saying get the government out of our lives. And the right is saying we want the government in your life on that particular issue. And that kills me because I'm like, here's one where they're saying get the fucking federal government out of here. And you guys are the ones saying bring the federal government in.
But I think there's a good portion of people But
There's not I'll put it to you this way. There's not
yeah,
a single person in the country right now sitting home thinking, I would be smoking weed right now if only it was federally legal.
no, I agree with you.
You're not going to get one more weed smoker.
I think with, but again, it's more of the conservatarian versus you have your social conservatives who I think really are the ones who push back. A lot of us are absolutely cool with make it all legal because it's a waste of time and energy and it's none of my business as long as you do no harm. And I think that is the one thing that we have to remember talking about libertarianism is live and let live, but do no harm.
I don't know. No true libertarian wants to hurt anybody.
I agree with that too. I'm not saying they do. My point is though that some people may believe that marijuana is bad for people. And that is where that comes from. But for me, I don't care.
Well, really even stuff, Big Macs are bad for you. Listen, if somebody wants to hang from their toenails from their ceiling and drink bleach all day, like, let them. I don't give a fuck. If that
what
makes
if they do that and hurt somebody else?
Well, obviously, then it's of course. My whole, I say that all the time. If I was king, if I was monarch of the country, my 4 rules would all boil down to, don't hurt anybody, don't threaten anybody, don't take anything that's not yours, and don't destroy anything or damage anything that's not yours. Beyond that, there's really not much. And people always try to name exceptions. Like, oh, that falls into that category. Or what about abortion? You're ending a life. That falls into the don't hurt anybody. So people have a really hard time finding exceptions when I just give them that simple layout.
Yeah.
But that's what it should be. And then the government should be invisible to us beyond that. And if someone wants to poison themselves by drinking 15 fucking Cokes or eating 10 Big Macs, we let them. Yeah. I don't care. If somebody wants to sit and drink a handle of whiskey, don't get in the car.
Get in the car. Exactly.
Don't hit your kids.
Drink 8 gallons of it. I could give a shit. But
Suicide.
Don't get behind the wheel and don't hurt your kids. Yeah. It's the same thing.
People, that's what liberty is. And people want it to be pretty and comfortable, but
it's not. It can't be. Freedom is never pretty. It can't be, because if it was, then it would be controlled. The beauty of liberty is that it's uncontrolled and things fuck up sometimes.
Exactly.
That's the point, and that's why you want it. Life isn't perfect.
Well, and they've shown in other countries. They did in Portugal and other places, and it's true of drinking ages in countries where there's lower drinking ages. They have less alcoholism. You're not making it this taboo thing where you think teenagers drink less because it's 21 than they did when it was 18. They were drinking before they're drinking now. In fact, if you gave it no age or made it 14, they wouldn't be, after a generation, they wouldn't even be. You think kids are going to go funnel beers like it's a huge deal when they could just do that? When they could just have a fucking beer, like in Germany or whatever? And then with the drug stuff, when you decriminalize it, you remove the violent criminals. You don't need violent criminals running a ring. Look at prostitution. If you just said people can be legal escorts and have sex for money all over the country, the trafficking would go away. You don't need violent criminals.
I don't disagree with you. I think that we should make sex work legal, and I think we should protect the men.
You don't need a drug cartel trafficking women for something that's legal.
Yeah.
We create those issues.
We do, but a lot of people create those issues because it makes them money and it helps them have power. And it makes, if we're talking to each other, and like, let's say I don't think that marijuana should be legal and you do, and they say he's a bad guy, so I don't talk to you, and then they can do whatever they want. But then you and I start talking, and I'm like, oh, we kind of agree on this. They have to answer to both of us then, and they have to do their job. And that's what this all boils down to. It's much more, I mean, it's a lot of fun. But if we're fighting with each other, then there's no accountability for them because they aren't having to answer to us because we're too busy fighting with each other.
Yeah, no, and now their objective, talking about intentions, is the divisiveness in a way it never was. They want the fighting. They gaslight everybody into that. They do it. Again, look, we were talking about race. Look at the race issue. Nobody was thinking about race before. They said we're making this an issue every day in everyone's lives that the country is insanely racist. But we just went like 20, 30 years, nobody was thinking that. Nobody was thinking about the color of anybody's skin. So they created this whole issue where everyone went, is this racist? Am I racist? Are you racist? Is this guy like, what color are you? What color are you? Who do you identify as? Like, are you like, you made that a problem so that everybody would argue.
It's a very lucrative problem too. Look at all the different groups that have formed and the organizations and the movements and how much money they make, all based on how racist this country is. It's ridiculous. When I was a kid, and it was like I didn't care about any of that crap. I had friends everywhere, of every color. It didn't matter, and it was never a discussion. But of course, if I say that, then I'm racist because I refuse to admit my friends were of color. Well, I didn't care if she was of color. She was my friend. But then, of course, either way, I'm the bad guy because I'm the white woman who enables the evil white man, and here we are.
Yeah, exactly. And then they went, well, it's not just enough to not be racist. You have to be like actively
anti-racist.
Actively anti-racist. Like, dude, there hasn't been institutional racism in this country in God knows how many years, or institutional sexism or any of that stuff. Therefore, you're never going to legislate out individual behavior. If there's always going to be an individual racist person or an individual sexist person.
People are going to be assholes. They're allowed to be. That's one of the few things we have left. And if you're a racist asshole, that's not, I don't have to be around you, but so what? Move on. That's not my deal. And I don't want the government putting laws around me because you're a racist asshole.
No, there never used to be government-sponsored activism like this before.
There it is. That's what it's called. Government-sponsored activism. That's exactly what we have now. You hit it on the nail. That's it.
They stopped patting the crazy people on the head, and they went, hey, crazy, we're going to give you a microphone and a platform. Money,
and pretend you're an activist.
Yeah, and we're going to hire Sam, what's-his-face, and applaud it and go, this guy's amazing because look at him. And it's like, oh, because he's in like crisis about what he is and who he fucks. Now we're all celebrating him as some sort of ceiling breaker.
Oh
he broke the glass ceiling.
Because he's a booey fuck.
Why are we doing all that stuff? Like, what's the point of it? They got bored with the racism, and then they went, we're going to celebrate anyone who questions their gender or
anybody who questions anything.
Anyone. Yeah, we went from like I think 30% of like kids now identify as like, you know, they're not sure.
Yes,
they're not sure what they are.
There was that was it the clinic in St. Louis, and they raised these red flags because the girls were showing up in groups from high schools together, saying, "Oh, I identify as a boy now." No, you don't. You're in a clique and you're bored. Go home. You're a tomboy and you like wearing glasses and your short hair. Get the fuck out of here and go home. You know, you're not a boy. But that's now if I say that, I am putting their lives at risk because I'm a bigot or I'm anti-trans or whatever crap they want to throw at me. And that's the thing. They can throw whatever they want at me because I don't care anymore. I just want my kids to be safe and have a good life, and to hell with the rest of you. See, that's not nice.
Yeah, no, it's not nice. But it's true.
That's, you know, it works.
Yeah, we decided to give it all air, and it was a huge mistake that we made in doing that. I think that's the objective that we have to get back to. See, it's hard because I've tried to explain this to people, and then they kind of get annoyed with me because I agree with them. Yeah. So it's like you talk about, okay, I see tweets every day complaining about kids going to drag shows. Okay, for example, this is one example.
Okay.
You have to just like dismiss those people as insane. I feel here's the part I can never explain. The fact that people get on social media every day to complain about kids being at drag shows has caused more kids to be at drag shows. And I can't do that exact calculus for you.
Come on, man.
But I know it's true. Because what happens is those left people that look at you like you were talking about a minute ago and go, you're fucking crazy, whatever. They want to now participate in this thing. The same reason why 30% of kids are identifying as gender fluid, because we gave it the air and made them go, hey, I want to be part of this fucking thing. I want to identify as a different or a victim or belong to this thing.
Mm-hmm. We did.
Whereas before they just kind of would have been
go home.
Laughed out of the room.
Yeah.
And it would have been... next month they would have been on to something else.
The thing is, in a lot of this got wings during, and I hate to keep saying this, but during the pandemic because people got bored. There's a transvestite, and he'll tell you he's a man dressed as a woman. He doesn't use the pronouns, and I can't remember his name, of course, because I'm getting old. But he said they got bored during the pandemic and it became they, them. And then they started pushing the trans, and then it became a movement because they were bored. And instead of ignoring them like we should have, we gave it air, like you said, and it became a movement. So it was all built out of boredom, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's where all this stuff starts, because activists do not go home when they achieve their goal, right? And so you see that with, so like the people of like women's suffrage or whatever, like all the way through, right?
Right.
Once women had completely equal rights from an institutional standpoint, that's it. You got your goal. So like we still have people protesting now for women's rights. So it's like, what right are you talking about? Because they need,
what don't you have?
Right,
Yeah.
but they need something to keep doing. So then it does become, well, now we're going to start protesting in favor of everyone that wants to chop off their penis. Or what? It was like, no, you got your thing with the women. Like,
Yeah.
they created a whole fake civil rights movement, in fact.
Well, what rights don't I have that you have? And that's what I always ask women. What rights don't I have? My favorite is when men tell me that I need to fight for women's rights. I'm like, what rights don't I have? Because rights are pretty specific.
The male feminist is
they're the worst.
a different breed.
Worst. They make me nuts. You're a disgrace to your sex. Well, you're an idiot, so piss off. I mean, these are who those people are, though. And I don't know if they think they're going to get laid if they act like that. Like, oh, all these feminists want to get on me because I'm one of them. But I'm like, why would you want that anyway? You know, go away.
Yeah, and a lot of it is like that white knighting SJW where they're like, hey, man, you can't talk to that woman that way. Like, you see it on Twitter. Like, there'll be a debate and then a bunch of guys jump in on the other guy like, hey, bro. Like, trying to act like...
Hey, bro.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of that energy. These male feminist guys, I don't think they really believe it all.
I don't think they know what to do with women that don't agree with them, though, because then it's like, you know, they come in and you're a disgrace, and I'm like, I don't care about you at all, and it's, you know, they're not going to sleep with you or whatever, and then they accuse me of being a man, which is always a lot of fun. But they don't know how to deal with actual women. They've picked up talking points, and it's like, okay, this makes me sensitive to the women's or whatever, and real women just laugh at them and move on.
It's true. Yeah. They found an
true.
in to be able to be like, I can talk to women this way.
Yep. Look at me. I am so considerate of women. I'm going to fight another woman.
Well,
okay.
That's what the whole woke stuff is again, 90% of the people that say all this stuff or do all the actual virtue signaling, I never buy that they believe it. To me, it's always, you know, people pretending to be offended on other people's behalves who aren't offended themselves. That's a huge part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they can say, "Look at me, how much I care," and pat themselves
exactly.
on the back, and then go back to doing nothing.
Yes, and they do it with all the minorities. They do it. It's the condescending, demeaning bullshit, and they're not. Yeah. They don't believe any of it. They think it makes them look like good people.
Well, they want to pretend they believe it because they feel like that what makes them a good person. But ultimately, it's just like a lazy form of slacktivism is what it really is. Look at me, I'm fighting for civil rights, and I'm going to do it on my computer, and then I'm going to go eat a cheeseburger because it's lazy. Yeah.
Well, and it's the government telling them, here's the list of the stuff that you have to signal about.
Yes, and if you don't, then you are one of those right-wing extremists, domestic terrorists, neo-Nazis on the right.
Right, and there's no right, and it becomes like every single person to a T that feels a certain way, let's say, about the gender topic or whatever, they're all pro-Fauci, for example. Like, these things are not political things. How do we, they really do, they take a list of these things and they go, here's what you're supposed to like, here's what you don't like.
They're all the same people. They went from the COVID thing to the Ukraine thing to the trans thing.
What happened to the kids in the cages? That's coming back now. We didn't care for years. What happened to the Muslim immigration, the Islamophobia shit? Like, yes, if they run out of stuff next week, they'll bring one of those back. They'll go,
oh, whoopsie. Or it's, you know, the Earth has, 8 years left before the climate kills us? Or, you know, it's just everything. Every day is something new, and they'll use it for a while, and then they get bored, and then they'll move on and change the flag and their little handle, and it's some new movement.
Yeah.
BLM was huge for 2 years, and suddenly they're gone. And of course, she took a bunch of money and bought $1 million house, but they got bored is what really happened, and they moved on.
Yep.
And it was, whatever is the thing. And that's like Elon Musk even jokes about that when he talks about Twitter. It's the thing. What's the latest thing? And I think that's where some people just go, God, this is stupid. I don't want to be around any of this,
No, Elon said to follow you, by the way, speaking of Twitter, didn't he?
No, that was a joke.
I know. Okay. I saw that.
No, I totally pinned it because it was really funny. And 2,000 people followed me. I'm like, I'm not the rabbit he's talking about. But I'll go with it. This is hilarious. But no, he did not say I was not the white rabbit he was referring to. But it was funny.
It's funny, and he does actually. I'll say about it. He does interact with regular people.
He does. He used to follow me, but then he bought Twitter and stopped following me.
Wow.
So.
Oh, that's big.
I was so disappointed. I have crazy people. John Cena follows me, which is really funny. I'm like, what about me made you follow me? What did I say? And what is it? The murderer, and what is his name? Gosh, I'm so old. I can't remember names anymore. Ray, the football player who killed somebody. He followed me.
Yeah, Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis, thank you.
That's cool.
Me.
I'd like a Ray Lewis follow. That's awesome.
It's kind of weird though. Like, why? What did I say that got you to follow me? And
that is interesting. I like Ray. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, my son has his jersey, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Dude's a legend.
He is actually for all the wrong reasons.
I got a few porn stars on there. I think the John Cena account might follow me on something because I went, is this the real Cena? It's on one of the platforms. It did because it has the check mark with all the.
Oh, it's him. Yeah, well, it's whoever is running his account. It's John Cena.
That's true.
I have lots of porn stars who follow me.
Yeah.
I have truck drivers. Porn stars are pretty libertarian, man. They don't want anybody getting in their way and telling them what to do.
I got a few of the porn and the escort people too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they're some of the most interesting, and they are hardcore freedom, live and let live, and I totally dig them.
Porn's such a good fucking example of how stupid we are. The prostitution too. Again, sex is legal.
Yeah, I don't care.
So now we're putting these parameters. So I could take you to a dinner, and they you're as long as I'm not forcing you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna go, here's $1,000 just to hang out with me for the night, and you want to do that
and get paid.
Why is it's creepy that the government's stepping into that stuff?
Why do they care? Because they want to tax it. I don't give a shit, but it's none of their business.
The right has a very knee jerk where they go, porn's gross, it traffics women, they groom them, it's demeaning, whatever.
But
it's because of all. Well, and if it does happen, it's because of all the legal and regulatory shit they put in there. If they
I got into a huge fight with Matt Walsh last year, and he and I never really see eye to eye. But anyway, he's really popular and whatever right now. But he and I had a fight because there was a porn star who wanted to go to a conservative event.
Yeah, she followed Brandy. She's on my thing.
Yeah, well, he didn't think she should go, and I said, "Get fucked. She should go. She wants to go." And so I was like this witch, of course, and I'm this evil, and I shouldn't call myself a conservative because I believe she should be allowed into the tent and all this crap. But I will go to Matt for that because if we agree on 80% of everything, come on in. Let's get this done. And I don't want to be a porn star, but if you want to be a porn star, knock yourself out. What do I care?
Yeah, it's like what I was saying before.
You're in my team. Let's get this done, man. And
yes.
I have a ton of and truck drivers follow me, but it's like the porn stars are the best because they are totally cool. And they love, okay, so I'll tell you, there's one that's an older lady who's retired, but she still puts pictures of herself up that's naked. Oh, my God. And I followed her back not knowing that she did that because I was trying to be nuts. I was like, whoa, that's an old vagina in my timeline,
Wow.
So I got that, but I still follow her. I just am very careful if she's tweeting.
Yeah.
But I love that. I'm like, I don't care where you come from. If you're in my people, you're my people.
Even if they're doing it for some unhealthy reason or whatever, it's
none of my business.
It's not ours, and it's not the government's place to say either. That's what's extra weird about it. And you're doing it to something that's legal. That's what's so extra weird. The government, to wrap back up, we created them for 5 things, right? Do those things and then leave everybody alone.
Well, that's simple. Why don't you write that out? Because that's what they should be doing. But you have to write it out because they can't figure it out.
And like you said, state and local should have more ability to get involved in stuff. And then, right, the whole idea with the country was, if you're not down with the state and local stuff, live in a place where you are down with it.
Move or change it. Change your politics locally. You don't have to run and give up. And that's one of the things I really disagree with too with my side right now is there's this idea of, well, just national divorce. We're going to give up. We're going to go to our red states, you go to your blue states. And fuck all that. Because if we do that, we lose way too much. It's the same thing as with public schools and homeschooling. And when my kids were being kept out of school and all these people were like, just take them out and homeschool. And I'm like, no, I'm not giving up these institutions I pay for. My kids are going to have a good education, and I'm not giving up another institution to the crazy left. I'm just not. And we fought to stay in Virginia, but we had told ourselves, if McAuliffe wins, we're leaving, we're going back to Wyoming, and we're getting out of here. But we stayed enough to fight and flip the state. And we did flip the state. And it's so much better for people. Like, there's no gas, there's no grocery tax now, and the schools are better, and it's safer communities, and the cops don't feel like they're hated anymore. And
that's nice.
There's something to be said about you don't have to give up. You need to fight where you are and do for what you want. But to your point as well, there are other states. If you get in a place where if we couldn't have flipped it, I was out of here, man. I was not going to stay and watch my kids go through this.
Because it's become so crazy, though. That's like we should remove that somehow. Yeah, the national divorce people drive me crazy. I don't think we should be going down that road at all.
I don't think so either. I'm not to that point. Now, who knows, 20 years from now when I'm really old, I might be for it. But for now, I'm just like, we can't just keep giving up space. We can't just keep running and letting people who are insane call the shots. And until we can figure out how to get better at it, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready to run yet, and I'm not ready to cut the country in half. And although we wouldn't be hungry and we'd be pretty, well protected and armed, but otherwise,
Yeah, that's what's so funny too. It's like, where do all the, anti-capitalists also think like all the funding's coming from for all their programs and such?
Who pays for it? Oh yeah, we do. You're welcome.
They go to the government. They don't understand. There's no math being done from point A. That's why all the young people are the idealists of, let's just help everyone. Let's just take everyone in, for example. Why not just bring in anyone that wants to come to this country who's poor?
Look at you making a full circle. That was awesome.
Why not take in half of Mexico? Like, what's your problem? You hate Mexican people?
Because you're racist like Trump. Look at you.
Yeah. Before we wrap up,
sure.
Tell everybody where to find you again. Your pod. You haven't done the pod again yet, right? The next one's coming up.
We're starting FUBAR back on March 6th on KLRN Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's every other Monday because I have to figure out if I can keep up with it with everything else. And then, of course, you can find me on Twitchy.com and on Twitter at PolitiBunny. That's PolitiBunny. And then, I'm just kind of floating around everywhere, it seems like. So.
And FUBAR, FOO.
It's, FOOBAR. It's kind of like the other FUBAR, but not with FU, but FOO. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And that's KLRNradio.com. And who's your co-host on that again?
That's the Amish. That's Ordy.
Ordy's great.
Packard. He is something else.
Ordy is a funny character. Speaking of someone like a dog with a bone in an argument, I see him popping up, and I'm like, he's really like, he'll get on a topic like how the party switched.
Yep. He hates that argument. Yeah.
He'll have like a 2.5 week debate with somebody.
And he's eventually humping their mom behind the Circle K. Yeah, that's who he is. And he's funny because I'll be like, dude, don't get suspended. I'll be fine. Half an hour later, okay, I got locked. What the hell? I told you not to get suspended, man.
Yeah, people report you quick if you hit them with certain words.
Well, and he jumps on a dumb grenade. That's just who he is. I mean, if someone's being mean to you, he's going to get in the middle of the fight, and then he's locked because that's just what he does. But yeah, he says he just makes fart noises on this show, but he does a lot more.
No, he's good. I had him on here, and then I went on, or we did that Christmas.
Yeah, that was fun. Together. That was a lot of fun.
We got to do
You'll have to come on FUBAR and hang out with us.
I'd love to. Thank you.
It'll be fun. It's only an hour, but and we do it live and we don't record it. So if you fuck up, we'll just make fun of you in front of everybody.
I like the live. I was telling them on because I did Aggies. I filled in for Mickey a couple weeks ago.
Oh, how fun! Yeah, I adore her, and Mickey's wonderful.
Yeah, Mickey's the best. But I was like, I like this live because it's like, yeah, you are just kind of stuck with what you got. You know, have to
If
sit
you
there
screw
and
up, everybody knows. It was like we
Yeah.
had a whole Indiana Jones thing happen where I didn't realize part 2 came before part 1 or something, and I still haven't learned that down. I mean, it's been 5 years ago or something, and I still hear about that crap from the people who listened.
yeah, no.
So
If I say something dumb on here, I edit it out.
yeah,
And there's
see,
something, but you would like that's what I mean. There's something not free about that. You think it's less free to do the live, but it's more. It feels more free
it is
because
because
you're
people
just
are like reacting to you too, and I'm
yeah.
really mean to people who listen to the show, so I abuse them the entire time, and they love that, which is weird because you wouldn't think so, but yeah, I think live is more fun. You'll have to come and do live with us.
I will. I remember you telling me you abuse your listeners and that they
Oh,
enjoy it.
so bad. They come back for more. They're really weird.
Those are
but they love-
definitely men.
yeah, they are. They're
Yeah.
all and
Yeah.
they always say, like I said, chat sucks. So now chat lives matter has become a thing, and
There are a lot
There's-
of guys that find it either endearing or beyond that when women are kind of mean to them.
I'm mean to everybody though. I'm equal opportunity. I'm not nice to anybody. So you know.
I don't know. You seem pretty nice here.
No,
Thank you.
You're just being nice because I'm on. And I can hear you.
just for coming on. You're nice.
No, this is fun. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting talking with someone who I might disagree with sometimes. So that's very rare.
We'll get back on that libertarian stuff later. I still have more bones to pick with you on that.
Well, that's fine.
No,
We can
I'm
argue
kidding.
libertarianism on my show and live.
Yes.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah. No, you're welcome back anytime, and I would love to come on
Okay.
Fubar.
Yeah, we'll have you definitely. We need to bring more people on because I don't think Orty wants to talk to me for an hour just by himself all the time.
Really, no, thank you. Thank you. It was I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, it was fun.
We will do it again, and hit her up on Twitter, PolitaBunny. Check out the pod coming back, klrnradio.com, Fubar, and I hope everybody's having a nice week. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will be back in a few days with another episode. Thank you guys so much. Be good.